What's up, YouTube? Dan with Dead Draw Gaming back today for episode number 2 of the Dead Draw Gaming Roundtable. I am joined, as always, by Danny A. Strike, and today our special guest is Jay Lesage.
Yo.
So, Jay, why don't you had a pretty big accomplishment back in 2010. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about what happened then and what you've done since?
All right, so little Jay back in the day had a dream, and I was 13 years old, could barely eat all my vegetables, and I still wanted to be the Pokemon World Champion. So I went extremely hard the whole season. Back then, we had a thing called Red Shark. It was like PTCGO, but didn't show the card images and stuff. And I'd stay in all day. I didn't do my homework, and I'd play Red Shark all day because I wanted to be world champion so bad. I spent probably 5 hours a day on Red Shark. I ended up winning every single tournament I played in that year, and I won city championships back then, battle roads, pre-release, states, regionals, nationals, and then finally the world championships. It was the craziest year in the history of Pokemon ever. I still can't believe it happened.
Yeah, so super awesome. Again, even 6 years ago, congratulations. So what have you done since in the community? Where have you finished?
So after 2010, I wasn't able to play so much of the 2011 season, but I managed to top 8 nationals once again, and then make top 8 at the 2011 World Championships. In 2012, I aged up into Masters, and needless to say, I got it handed to me. I was fresh meat. I walked in. I was really cocky. That was one thing. I was really cocky senior aging up, considering I had the best season in 2010, and I'm just gonna walk in. I'm just gonna destroy all these Masters, and it was a different format. It was like where Rush Explosion was big and all that, and I just my deck lists were weak. I was cocky. I made misplays, and I came up short of my Worlds invite that year. I think I was short. Like, I wasn't sure how the structure worked out. I just know I was ridiculously close, like that much. Then the next season, I was a little bit discouraged. I played a little less. So in the 2013 era, I just came up more weak. I didn't know what to do. So going forward, the 2014 to 2015 year, I wanted to make a big splash back into the game. My prior accomplishment to that was like a second place at the provincials, which is like nothing. So, well, not nothing, but nothing compared to previous years.
Right.
So going into that year, I really wanted to make it big. So what had happened was I practiced every single day. And I thought if I mimicked what I did in 2010 by playing Red Shark every day, I'd make it big again. So I played PTCGO every day, and it worked. Practice is really everything. I went on. I won a bunch of cities. I top eighted a bunch of states and provincials. I top eighted regionals, and I was able to play nationals for a couple of reasons. And then I came up short of like everything. I got my Worlds invite. I was unable to play Worlds that year.
Oh man.
But I know it was a bit of a weird year. Like, a lot of stuff came up. But basically, had I been able to play nationals, I finished that year with like 482 championship points. Canadian Nationals top 8, which is relatively good numbers wise percentage. That would have gotten me the day 2 invite. So last year was a little bit weird. Well, the year before that, sorry, was a little weird. And in the 2016 season, I was determined more than ever. So I really turned up. I played more on PTCGO. I capped out at 4 cities. I played so many cities, guys. I'm talking like 15 cities. I think I massed over like 500 CP off cities. Like, it was stupid.
Nice.
I really wanted to like max out. And then I top aided multiple SPTs, top aided regionals, top aided nationals, and I clinched my top 16 invite by 15th spot. And then going into Worlds, I came top 16, which was like really, really cutting it too.
Nice.
Yeah, it was an awesome year. I couldn't have done without all the support.
And so this year so far, so what's your mindset so far going into this year?
So my mindset going into this year is, so this year's a little different. I'm going into college this year. So as we all know with college kind of has to take a priority for me, but I still do want to get the invite. The invite's higher this year. So what I figure is right now I got 80 points from Worlds last year, and I got 2 LCs on the board this year. So I'm sitting around the 100-point mark, like 110 points. And I just think that going in, I only need 400 CP. If I perform really well at the London Internationals or Intercontinentals, that'll push me to where I need to go. And then if I cap out on League Cups. So I think if I really focus on winning one big tournament this year and then cap out on League Cups, which should be attainable given my previous track records, I'll be right on spot to get my top 16 invite. Worst comes worst, I settle for a normal invite, and then we just go back to Worlds again.
Nice. Assuming we do get League Cups, because there's really no announcement on those at all yet, which is great.
Maybe.
It's been a little weird. They've been lacking with a lot of answers this year.
Yeah. So going forth, you mentioned London Intercontinentals. Are you going to any regionals before then, or have you gone to any regionals yet?
So I haven't attended any regionals this year, which kind of shocks me. I think that given last year, I'd be going head first into this year. I had to take a little bit of a break, though, because I had a lot of busy tests and stuff during the Orlando time period. But I plan on going to Fort Wayne, hopefully Philadelphia. I also plan on going to Madison. Madison's still regionals, right?
Yep.
I was going to say that was an awesome regionals. And then I also plan on Toronto, obviously. So I'm going to be going to all of those.
Cool. So you should be able to.
And sorry to cut you off there. Also, I want to go to Asia Intercontinentals when that goes.
That'd be nice.
Of course, in NA Intercontinentals, I'm going to try and hit up all the Intercontinentals. I'm going to lay off on the regionals a bit and just go for the big tournaments.
Right.
What did they change the best limit of for? Because I know they included Worlds with Intercontinentals, right?
Worlds was included with regionals.
I thought originally it was included with regionals, and that got changed to Intercontinentals.
If anything, I haven't heard anything about it being grouped in with Intercontinentals. From my understanding, I thought the general consensus was it was grouped in with regionals. But regardless, even if it is grouped in with Worlds, I know it's best of 2 for Intercontinentals. So I'd push out the 80 points I have from Worlds and just
win those other 2. Yeah.
Oh yeah, just win, right?
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah.
Nothing to it.
Just that an entire continent, boys. It's okay.
Yeah. 2 or 3 entire continents.
Oh goodness.
Very nice.
So obviously, Jay, you've had all sorts of success, and the success you've seen playing in all these tournaments has led you to start your own website, get into some coaching. You've had some success doing that with some junior players with Zach. So why don't you kind of explain what that's all about and what the plan is and kind of what you're trying to accomplish with the whole thing?
Yeah, of course. So I got this really cool idea for opening up a website called the PokeAcademy. So before I get into the PokeAcademy, kind of had a really inspiring story. Basically, playing off what you were saying, I used to coach a couple of kids, and then these kids went on to be very successful players. And it was very inspiring what I could do with them. Like anything that they obtained, though, they obtained for themselves, only with a little bit of assistance, right? I always went on the philosophy that it's not me that's changing you, it's you that's changing yourself. So these parents of the children, they were big mouths, and they went on, they told all these other parents, and they enrolled their kids in our little coaching program. And then eventually I got so overflowed that I gave some to my brother Zach, and then we started just getting our hands full. So going into this season, I figured I'd open up a website, the PokeAcademy, to open up to more people. I wanted to hire international coaches, and I wanted to hire coaches that understood different languages as well, to kind of appeal to target market children so that they could learn easier. I noticed that there was a couple boundaries with a couple children, and I worked on improving the systems to kind of enhance that. So going forward, I'm taking the time right now to really develop my website, kind of offer external resources to these kids so that they can grow on and be the players. Because I don't know about you guys, but I've been playing for over a decade now, and I grew up in a time period where there wasn't an online presence for Pokemon. If you made a deck list, it was definitely secret. there was no online resource. So I wanted to give these kids kind of like that loophole through the system. You don't have to go to league. You can get ripped off with your good cards. You don't have to use subpar decks. I just wanted to get it right to them. This is where you need to be. I'll help you get there. So that's kind of my ordeal. So everyone can look forward to the PokeAcademy opening in the next upcoming weeks, and I'm really excited to launch it.
So obviously Dan and I are really bad at the game. So let's say we joined the PokeAcademy to try and get some insight. How do you plan on going about doing the training and the coaching? Like, what kind of platforms are you going to be using?
So currently we use a system where we go through Skype, and we use a PTCGO account. What's kind of neat about this system, it was actually introduced by one of my coaches, Keon. I'm sure a lot of people know Keon Amini. He's one of the best players in the world. And he introduced a really cool system to me that I never used when I was coaching, and I kind of regret that I didn't because it's very effective. He would use his account with the student, and he would mirror his screen with them, and they could discuss decisions going into the game. So instead of the coach playing against the player, it would be the coach with the player against somebody else. You can see why this would be an extremely effective scenario. So we kind of go through that. We also discuss deck choices. So given a certain metagame, we can kind of discuss things to give you the best chance of winning. And another really nice thing about this that I like is you develop a rapport with the coach. Now, I know that when you're a new player, it's really hard to make friends, right?
Yeah.
Now, with this coaching program, it opens you up to not only getting hands-on time with a mentor being a top-tier player, but you also get that connection, right? You get that connect with someone who's higher up, and they become your friend, and as well as their friends become your friend, and you get that networking ability. So it's kind of like an all-in-one inclusive package. Also, another cool thing that we do is we offer a 15-minute free orientation for you to meet with your coach and specifically tailor a plan towards your needs, right? So, for example, if you were having issues with, let's say, management of resources, we could develop test scenarios with certain decks, like a Night March deck, to see how you're doing, right? Things like that. So we really like to personalize our program.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
and I think it's something that the community just doesn't really have access to right now. So it's very intelligent, very smart. It's awesome. Good for you guys.
Thank you. I'm blushing.
Yeah. I remember I saw you posted online just a few weeks ago looking for coaches. Have you hired any yet? And if so, how many are you looking at bringing on?
So right now, currently, I have 3 coaches with 3.5. Okay. So what's going on right now is I haven't really advertised it, right? I've reached out and I have about 10 people that I have on the go just for myself. That was going in from last year as well. And that's just from Canadian perspective. That's just Canadians itself. So right now I have a bunch of people that I just orientated this week. This is the first time I've actually opened it to the public. I haven't even made a post asking for students to enroll. I just have people who saw the post and they kind of messaged me. So I have myself, I have Keon Amini, I have my brother Zach, and then I'm in the midst of hiring Brad Curcio. So what I'm trying to do right now, I'm in the likes of hiring other top tier players. Not even just top tier players though. I'm looking for hiring people who know how to teach. For example, I had an interview the other day with Rahul Reddy. And now Rahul he's a really cool guy in the community, really funny guy.
Yeah, he is.
And him and I were discussing, and he just came off a top 8 regionals, which is great for him. That's a nice little addition to his resume. But we were kind of discussing, and I told him, I know that you don't have the most upscale accomplishments, right? He's a good player. He's definitely above the average. He's great. But he doesn't have that regional title, you know what I mean? But I think that he's an amazing teacher, right? So, for example, I'm just kind of picking on Pokey, who's my friend, but that's someone who I would pick because they're an amazing mentor, right? Not only that, he runs the Chaos Gym, and he knows how to communicate with people properly. So, anyways, going forward with that, I have only a couple coaches right now. I'm looking into resumes right now because the respondents has been amazing from the community, and I'm definitely still accepting resumes.
Awesome. And when's your plan for opening? I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't.
No, it's completely okay. I plan to get the website done by the end of this week. I'm on reading week. I've been a really busy college and Pokemon person. So I'm just trying to put the nail in the coffin this week and just get this out of the way because I want to open this up to the public already.
Awesome. So this episode, today it's Monday. This will probably go up Wednesday, give or take a day or two. So for all of you future PokeAcademy students and teachers, if you're looking for a spot or you're looking for a job, make sure to get a hold of Jay. We'll have links in, the description below and all the fun stuff. So super cool what you're doing. Like Danny said earlier, it's not something that we've seen before, at least in this community. So it'll be super exciting. So you did mention a few times though about some different regionals prior. You mentioned you were going to Fort Wayne, possibly going to Philadelphia. I guess let's start with Philly. You did say before the call that you've been testing a ton of Expanded. What do you think you'd be expecting if you do end up playing in it? And what are your top plays, I suppose?
Okay, so I think the most influential part of Expanded would have to be Karen being printed. So as you see online with debates, there's Karens being printed, and it just throws a wrench in the format. You're going to see Night March decks take a hit. Now you're going to see people even consider this. There's a point and a counterpoint with this. So the main point would be Karen shuffles basics in the deck. Night March gets destroyed by that. But how many people are actually going to run Karen? It's quite a psychological card more than an actual physical card of what it does.
Right.
So if we were to evaluate a field, in Standard, it's been obsolete almost. And even I've been testing in Standard with my Rainbow Road deck and my Mega Rayquaza deck, and it's almost useless. I barely use it in any of my games. I think Super Rod's almost better in every way in Standard, barring that there's no item lock. Now, going into Expanded, there's a lot more item locking options that are more valuable with Karen. There's also better ways to utilize Karen. Like, for example, I like to refer to Expanded as it's a deck opener. In Standard, there's no Battle Compressor. There's no Jirachi EX. Your supporters aren't as accessible.
Right. Whereas
in Expanded, they really are. So I think you're going to see Karen hit a huge boost. I would see 60 to 75% of the field running Karen in most of their decks. This is my expected metagame as well. This is probably important as well. You're going to see a lot of Toad Bats.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because I think you're going to still see those people that are ballsy enough to run the Night March. They're just going to think basically, you know what, if I dodge a couple Karen decks, or if I, some people see it like, oh, one Battle Compressor is 3 Night Marchers in the discard pile, plus a Lysander, that knocks out a Shaman EX. I only need to do that 3 times to win a game, right? So they're like, I can do that too, right? So you're going to see a lot of people try and get away with Night March, and it's just not going to fly. So I think that opens up people to play my personal favorite choice right now, Mega Rayquaza. Now, Mega Rayquaza has been a deck that's been around. Personally, like in the last season, I top 8 at the regionals with it. It was amazing because I timed it in a metagame where there was strictly Darkrai. It was like all those Darkrai and Evoltal decks. Now, I think that you're going to see a reemergence of that because Trevenant goes down in play because Night March will no longer also get played as much, which means Trevenant is less effective. Dark will become more prosperous because it can utilize Parallel City to defeat both Seismitoad variants and Mega Rayquaza. So you're going to kind of see a metagame go back in where it's like Mega Rayquaza, Seismitoad Bats, along with Darkrai variants, Darkrai Evoltal variants. Archeops is also necessary because Greninja was like a one-time hit wonder, and it will never happen again. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that with it winning, not only winning Arizona, but it had how many places in the top 32. Yeah, you're not expecting it again for Philly?
I don't even know how people let that happen. Like like you got to think about it. Like I was looking at some of the lists, and some of them just played a couple Evo Sodas and maybe a Wally.
Yeah, Evo Soda was huge. I mean, it came up big, but it was shocking to see the amount of Greninja that came up.
Right. The list that won didn't play any outs to Archeops. No Wally and no Evo Soda.
No, I know. And I couldn't believe Archeops was not taken advantage of because you knew Vespiquen Flareon was going to be big. I mean, there was a lot of big decks that you were like, oh, I would assume Archeops would be a huge variant in a lot of the dark decks, and it just wasn't as prevalent as I thought it would be.
Well,
Yeah, like,
it was still there. It just
They just
every
dodged all the
person who
smashes, I
played
guess.
Greninja got lucky.
I think it's a little ridiculous. I don't know how people let it slip past. I think it should have been an easy win for a tournament for any player that was playing Eviltal Archeops. I think they could have walked away with the win easily. And yet you'll see I don't believe any Eviltal Archeops made top 8.
Yeah, I know Dead Draw Gaming writer Caleb Gedimer, he played Greninja, and he piloted it to a top 8. So he's smarter than I am. So he knew something.
He's phenomenal. He's an amazing player.
He knew something going into it, because I know he was all about Vespiquen Flareon going into it, and then changed his mind pretty much last minute. So he knew something going into it I had no idea. But yeah, I was shocked.
I'm equally as shocked. I mean, it's still a puzzle to me how that whole tournament played out. Greninja's a great deck. It's just I can't touch most evolution decks in Expand unless I'm playing Wob or Hex Maniac or something. And like you said, the winners list didn't play any of those. Like if you've played an Eviltal Archeops, like if you played against an Eviltal Archeops top 8, you're done. Your tournament run is over.
Yeah.
And for that sheer fact, I couldn't touch Greninja. So kudos to everyone that did well with Greninja. I mean, obviously it wasn't a fluke because so many of them made it in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Jay, just backing up a second. So what you're saying basically is you're expecting a lot of Toad Bats and a lot of Mega Ray. So if you're kind of meta decking yourself, what do you think about like an Excelgor or a Virgin or something like that for Philly?
So I think that'd be a fine play, but I see a couple issues with it. One of the main ones being like my personal play once again would be Mega Rayquaza, but it's not just because it's a cute deck that does a lot of damage. It has a lot of nice things going for it. Like you could literally play Magearna if you want, or you could play Virizion, whichever one floats your boat better. I'm still toying around with both, but that'll stop Excelgor right in its tracks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Seismitoad. Like Seismitoad would get wrecked by it, to be honest. If there was an Excelgor versus a Toad, Excelgor's got it. But I'm not even sure of how Excelgor's matchup versus Eviltal is. That's just such a freak deck that I only expect Ross Cawthon to play. That I just kind of chalk it up like it's on my lesser of the to-do list. But if I were to gauge the metagame, I think Eviltal Archeops has never been at a better prime to do well at the tournament. You're especially going to see a lot of fanboys from the last few tournaments. They're going to want to play Greninja. And just because they're like, oh, it did well. Why did it do well? We don't know, right? Then they're going to get Archeops, and they're going to realize why. So,
yeah.
Looking into it, Rainbow Road is probably my surprise play. I think it's really underutilized with Ninja Boy.
So, Rainbow Road is one of those crazy decks out there right now that has 18 different variants that you could try to play, and all of them will be good. What kind of insight do you have if you were to take it, to Philly and win with it, because that's what you would do? How would you play it?
Oof. Okay.
You don't need to give me any secrets, but just.
I'm like, oh geez, I can't release it, guys. My sponsors will get mad. No. No, it's no secret. I think the way that I would run it is I would toy around with a couple interesting cards. I think people really underestimate the power of grass right now. I think that a Trevenant EX needs to be played to counter both Seismitoad, which I think is going to be widely played, and not only that, but Primal Groudon needs a counter of some sort. I'd have to think about that. I would probably play a Carnivine, the one that has Lure Poison, which brings up one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, poisons it, right? So not only does that bring up the Groudon, but it also breaks the Focus Sash. So it forces them to have a Pokemon Center Lady in their hand, right? That's another thing. Sorry to get back to it, but Mega Rayquaza is just so good. Play one Carnivine, and you literally don't have any bad matchups. Given this predicted, just play Mega Rayquaza if you hear this. Anyways, but Rainbow Road's just it's really good because it's unpredictable, right? you'd have to play a surplus of counter stadiums because Silent Lab would be on the rise with Toad Bats making an emergence. At least is my expectance.
Sure.
So I would be looking to play Tropical Beach, maybe. Well, it's more of an aggressive deck. I'd have to really look at the stadiums that are available in the wide pool. Maybe come up with something interesting, but definitely needs a heavy stadium bump count. I'd probably toy around with that. It needs a Karen for sure, even as counterintuitive as it is to shuffle your own Ho-Ohs in. But I think it's a good idea because what you can kind of do with the deck, like I'd play Ninja Boy in it, obviously. It just adds so much utility to the deck. You get a couple heads, you play Ninja Boy, you have an attacker powered up in one turn. How nuts is that?
Yeah, right.
Like, put it this way, you flip one heads on Rebirth, you attach a DCE, you Ninja Boy into an Evil Tall, you have a 5 energy Evil Tall that you power up in one turn. And it
So
took
insane.
almost no effort.
Right.
I think that can't be underlooked.
Very cool.
That's kind of my take.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it'll be
so-
interesting to see what gets played. I think a lot of the I think Philly's going to be bigger than Orlando. At least it wouldn't surprise me if it was. And a lot of people who want to be competitive are just going to go because of the prize pool, and they're going to look at the decks that topped in Arizona, and they're going to play that. So Night March and Greninja will probably still be pretty big. And a lot of people who are looking to make it to day 2 and cut are going to be playing those smarter choices like what you're talking about with Rayquaza and kind of theory minding about the meta. I mean, that's my own personal take.
Yeah, and so for like all you people out there that might be thinking, oh, I'll just look at Arizona lists and see what they did. Don't do that. Sign up for the PokeAcademy. Get coached.
Yep.
Figure out what the better play is. Watch
Just
this
make sure
video.
you do it very
So-
quick because Philly's like 5 days away or something.
Yeah, not
This shameless advertising.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're all about. So, switching gears a little bit, the next regionals after Philly is going to be Fort Wayne, which you said you're attending. That'll be our next standard tournament. We just had Orlando 2 weeks ago. Standard, for the most part, was everything that everyone was expecting. There wasn't a lot of surprises coming out of the top 32. Was there anything that you saw there that you weren't expecting? Or is there anything that you didn't see there that should have been there? And how is Orlando going to be different? Or how is Fort Wayne going to be different than what happened in Orlando?
Okay, so these are pretty good answers actually for this one. I was thinking about it in my head. I'm like, I know what he's going to ask me. I'm like, and I got the juice this time. Okay, so let's start with what I didn't expect to see. Gyarados was a huge surprise from that day, but I kind of already theoried it, and I didn't think it was going to be that impressive, as I think the rest of the world did. So kudos to Addison for piloting that. And the Meowstic was really cute. I thought that was awesome. I don't know how effective it was, but it's a really niche strategy. I think you're going to see Meowstic once again if Primal Groudon makes a huge showing. I think Meowstic can be huge and expanded. Sorry, I know I'm getting a little sidetracked here, but I love theorying. But Meowstic is just so strong in its ability that it can switch the damage counter in the same turn as the attack happens. So if a Groudon player is the focus sash once again, like it's just such a hard combo. Anyways, Gyarados is really strong. Too long, didn't read. Gyarados is really great. It's just it has a late game weakness. I didn't think people were going to play it. People did. They must have gotten really lucky on ends, but good job to them. Things that I thought should have been there. Honestly, I was expecting a little bit more Volcanion. A lot of Mega Mewtwo's were there, but they competed head to head with the Darkrai Garbodors.
Mm-hmm.
Darkrai Garbodor is a deck that it's been piloted a lot in Ontario, so I honestly wasn't surprised. I feel like a lot of other people were surprised that Darkrai Garbodor took off. I feel like the meta was ahead of its time.
What did you think of the Vileplume box that Alex and
Alex? Yeah. I mean, I think Alex. I don't know anything about Alex. I know his brother Chris and Alex Hill and Sean Foisey and all them. Like they're a brilliant team, and I didn't expect. I expect always that they're gonna make something work. for the event. They really put the time in. In this case, it was one of their team members, Alex Szymanski, and he made the top 2. Not a surprise to me, honestly. I knew it wasn't going to be something standardized, but I didn't expect it to be Plume Box. And I assume I haven't seen the list yet. I didn't get a chance to look it up. They went up today, right? But
Yep.
I wanted to see
Pokemon.com.
how many Olympia he used. I wanted to check the counts on that. I thought that it was a really well-timed play, given the matchups. The only thing that I have a hard time with is why I couldn't play it, and it was a little shocking for me, was how do you get around damage change? Like, just bump their stadium? Like, I know they play basic Mew, but, like, I mean, if they get a Garbodor up and they just keep damage changing, you essentially lose the game.
Okay, guys. So we had a little bit of technical difficulties. Good old Danny's internet is the worst. So
Savage.
a little bit of problems there, but we're gonna get right back into it. We left off talking about Fort Wayne regionals and what we're kind of seeing in standard, and the last thing I remember I was looking a thing up before the call. We were talking about Vileplume Box, and Jay had asked if Alex was running any Olympias or any outs to, like Floatstone, any sort of way that wasn't Manaphy. And we went ahead and looked it up, and Alex List, indeed, as long as Pokemon.com is correct, played no Olympias and no Floatstones, and Manaphy EX was his only out if it were to get Lysandered. So Jay loves that idea.
I can't even fathom an idea around just having a Vileplume up active, especially with Evoltal Mew being one of the most popular decks. It one Lysander away from 3 prizes, and you'd lose your trainer lock, and they could get 3 Pitch Black Spears in by the time that you retreat your Vileplume. How can anyone let that happen? And that's given that you have the energies in your hand to retreat the Vileplume. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, especially like if you don't have one of the 2 water energies, having to dedicate one of the rainbows to a Vileplume to be able to retreat it doesn't sound like my cup of tea. I mean, the guy got top 4 with it, so it's like, or second, or Alex,
Top 2,
he got
yeah.
second. Right?
Yeah, second.
So like, I mean, I'm definitely not one to talk about what he should and shouldn't be doing, but that doesn't mean I can't find it crazy.
I think it's crazy, but I mean, hey, it worked. I mean, sometimes you got to take risks like that to win a big tournament, right? Like a regionals. Same thing that, like, it's a recurring trend. Like, as you can see, like with standard, you see the Vileplume deck came second, and with the weeks before that, you see the Greninja won. So you just got to take big risks. You'll see a lot of the conservative players, like for example, someone that plays like a normal Stapleton sort of list, right? Like for example, the likes of like Igor Costa. Igor Costa played Volcanion, was a really simple list, right? And he made through to the top 8 because he's just a great player, right? But then you'll see the people who take the risks and they go for it, and they actually end up winning. You can see that with Azul with his unorthodox Garbodor Evoltal EX deck.
I think Igor played Mewtwo, right? Did he play Mewtwo?
Oh, sorry, you're right. I was thinking Daniel Lopez, sorry.
Okay.
You're right, though. Igor did play Mewtwo. My apologies.
No, that's cool.
It's all good. We're all good. It's all good here. So Fort Wayne, there's your standard look. We had your expanded look. Jay will be traveling to London in December, playing in the Intercontinentals there. As much as Danny and I would love to join him, traveling overseas and dropping after 5 rounds is not something anyone wants to do.
I mean, I'm not going to rule it out yet because it'd be fun to say, let's go to the pub, which we can't say here in America. So
that's true. I mean, we can say it, but
it wouldn't make any sense.
Lying.
Yeah, we'd be kicked out.
So,
We'd be kicked
out.
So, I mean, like, we do have the release of Evolutions, which will be legal for that. But, I mean, like, have you been to London or anywhere in England or anywhere in Europe, I guess, before? And if you have, what was it like? And if you haven't, what do you think you're expecting? Not only like to be different from the North American kind of scene, but what I just your overall thoughts on what you're expecting to see in London.
Are we talking Pokemon or sightseeing?
Anything, both.
Mostly Pokemon, but some sightseeing also probably.
Okay, so I can definitely see parallels between how different I'd see North America to seeing Europe. So, on one aspect of it, as I'm saying that, Zach's calling me. Definitely not accepting that. So, just as you see in North America, Canada parallels the U.S. I expect London to parallel other things in Europe. I'm excited to travel there mainly because I've never been outside of the continent, like of North America, nonetheless played outside the continent. So a couple things I tend to notice is that just the likes of the players here like to mimic what the successful players are playing in our area. Same thing with the European players. Um, if I'm correct, there's a Liverpool regionals that happens before London Intercontinentals,
Yep.
and
Yep.
I'll be watching that very, very intently. I'm not sure if it's standard or expanded. Regardless, I'll still be looking at what wins because that'll drastically show what will be played. Like even if something like a Greninja, for example, were to win Liverpool, and if it was expanded at Liverpool, I would still be very wary of Greninja at the regionals. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Right.
Of course.
I just feel like it's apples to apples. It's the same sort of thing. Everyone has a huge idol in the game that they like. For the European players, you're always going to pick close to home, right? So, for example, someone like let's just say someone great like Ryan Morehouse, okay, really great England player, UK, or Tomeo Cameron. They take home Liverpool regionals, and they show up to the Continentals. You bet that there's 10 fans that are going to be running a super cool deck that Tomeo or Ryan talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be wary of that. Another cool thing that I'm really excited for is you always see the online debate between Europe and all the other sort of people like in America and Canada. They're always like, oh, we're like, who's better? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is the ultimate show off besides Worlds because this excludes anybody from Asia, anybody from South Africa. This is sheerly, like almost sheerly, Europe versus NA, right? So you're going to see a lot of cool interactions go down, and it's going to be exciting to see who takes it home. Honestly, I think the European players are amazing. I almost played versus exclusively European players at Worlds. It was kind of crazy. And they're definitely extremely strong. So I'm looking forward to it. Definitely different play styles that people adapt as well. But
so after playing against almost exclusively European players at Worlds, and kind of seeing all the online fight that happens between EU and NA, how do you go into an intercontinentals like that and say like this is how their meta is different than our meta? And what changes are you trying to make to be able to be successful in a meta that you're not used to?
I feel like when I go into a blank meta, I really, really like to play straightforward stuff. I don't like to tech it out because I don't know what I'm teching for.
Right.
Right? Like that's like me taking a knife fight to a party. I don't know what's gonna happen at this event. I have no clue. It could be anything. Any deck could show up. So I think it's really key just to keep your deck consistent over what could be a 9-round Swiss event.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So good stuff. London again, December 9th through 11th.
Yeah.
So if you're going, great. If not, better for Jay. So
Jay, if you had to sleeve up something right now in London was this weekend, what would you be playing?
I would be looking something along the likes of Garbodor for sure. Because based on last year's events, they really, really enjoyed Greninja. I would also include a copy of Delinquent. I feel like Delinquent's a card that's been popularized recently in North America, and it hasn't touched space as much in Europe. So I would expect for a lot of Europeans to kind of fall trap to putting their hand under 3. And I think stadiums are really, really prosperous right now.
Oh, that early game Delinquent is just so killer.
Delinquent to 0 is probably the most defeating thing you can do to your opponent on an early turn.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so strong. I'm thinking 1 to 2 copies of Delinquent going into the European Continentals.
Cool.
Do you see Evolutions making an impact on London at all? Have you looked at the card list, the set list at all?
Yeah, I've looked at the card list. So, kind of going back to the first question you said, what would I sleeve up? I've been kind of working on a Mega Gardevoir deck that's been kind of basing itself around. So, I kind of like Mega Gardevoir with Dragonite, with
So
Unknowns and
you're talking
Shamans.
about the Despair Ray?
Despair Ray, sorry to clarify. So, I think it's really strong because you're going to see this Mega Mewtwo and Darkrai Giratina trend carry over. Gardevoir manhandles Giratina as well as Mega Mewtwo. So I think it's really solid, especially with a couple Hex Maniac. Dragonite just adds to the mix because not only can you get all your basics back, right? But on top of that, you can Despair it, discard it, Karen, shuffle in all your basics, Hoopa them all back. Unknown makes your deck. If you play 4 unknowns, you essentially have a 56 card deck, essentially.
Right.
So if you make your deck so thin, you can just run through. Fairy Drop just adds healing support. But if we're going to look at what changed the metagame, it's that little Mewtwo card that came out. Psychic for 20 plus 20. For each energy attached to the defending Pokemon, will just destroy Mega Mewtwo. I think Mega Mewtwo will see the same amount of play, but I think that it will be slightly less successful based on people who really do their research.
Yeah, we touched base on that a little bit on our podcast last week, and we thought Mewtwo is one of the more exciting cards out of the set just because of that, that impact that it can play in the mirror, or even in anything, really, in standard.
Well,
it's a nice counter for a deck that's very dominant right now, I think.
I agree. I also really like Rattata.
Oh, the tool, where you get rid of the tool?
I think people are looking at Rattata for all the wrong reasons. I think people are looking at it because they're like, oh, Garbodor is played. But whether you're going first or second, right now we're playing in a really, really heavy dominated meta game, right? So I'm thinking turn 1, you're going to see those opponents that they're not ready. They attach a Spirit Link to their active Mewtwo. I start my turn, I Rattata them. They discard the Spirit Link. That might cost them a turn. That could cost them the game.
It's huge.
Right? I know, it's huge. And even in the late game, if I knock out a Garbodor, let's just say I knock a Garbodor out and they have a Fighting Fury belted Evoltal, I could use that Rattata, bump it down 40 HP less than what it originally was at. So it goes back down to 170, and it's within KO range, right? So I think that Rattata's an amazing card. People underrate it.
Yeah. And with Despair Ray, you just get rid of it, so it's really not that big of a deal sitting on your bench.
Yeah, I think Mega Gardevoir is going to be huge at London.
Cool. So,
good stuff.
Yeah. So I'm going to go a little bit back to a lot of what you just said, and we're going to even go a little bit back to the very beginning of the episode, where you were telling us about all your accomplishments and how you spent hours upon hours on Red Shark, not doing your homework and doing your chores, and even back to last year and the year before, where you did nothing but go home and skip work, skip class, only play PTCGO because winning worlds is all that matters. But what kind of testing habits do you have that has propelled you to have such success year after year after year? And what do you do differently, do you think, that someone like Danny or myself don't have the time to do, so we can't do that? But you've seen continued success for years straight. How do you differ in testing than someone like one of us who's very casual in the competitive game?
Okay, so I do this thing called stacking my deck. No. Okay, so looking into it over the years, something that it's really huge for me that I like to do, like you said, I dedicate myself a lot to testing. Those 2 years where I really slumped out in Masters wasn't because I aged up. It was because I didn't practice. Like I said, the keyword was I was too cocky, and it's my friend Dakota. Okay, he's one of my testing buddies. Okay, and this kind of ties in everything. And this quote is really, really strong. And we went to a league challenge. Okay, and I'm playing versus this girl. Okay, and she was playing Vespaquin with 4 Bidoofs. Okay.
Okay.
And yeah, you'll see where this is going in a second. So anyways, I'm sitting there and I'm just draw passing. It's coming so close. We're 1-to-1 prizes. I forget what I'm playing. It's irrelevant. This girl, I barely see her at events, but she ends up beating me. Okay, I entered a 1. She draws the game-winning Lysander. Lysander, she goes, "Good game." Gives me like the weakest handshake of my life, and I'm sitting there, I'm defeated, right? And I'm trying not to be a sore loser about it, but I totally was. Okay, and I'm rarely ever a sore loser. I couldn't take it. I was like, this girl literally shows up, plays for fun. I'm like, I played my absolute best, which was like 10 times better, right? But I'm like, what did I do wrong, right? And then my friend Dakota, I gave him all the sour grapes. And Dakota goes on, he's like, Jacob, he's like, he lost his round as well. And he goes on, he's like, Jacob, it's humbling, right? He's like, you're usually on like a pedestal up here, but like this girl knocked you off, right? And then it's like, it doesn't even matter whether she's the best player in the world or someone who just picked up a team deck, but you can lose. Like, we're not untouchable. You know what I mean? And I thought I looked at it and I'm like, why am I getting so sore? I'm like, this girl literally is like doing her best to be the best that she can, right? She's practicing, and I didn't practice for this event. And even if I do practice as much as I can still dead draw. So I'm like, you can't take every loss to heart. Mm-hmm. Same thing on PTCGO. I could lose 10 games in a row some nights, right? But I'll still sleep on that. I'll look in and I'll be like, okay, like I lost, but I'm like, but it's okay because losing is a huge part of winning. Sorry for the little cheesiness, but I think it's inspiring for a lot of players who I see a lot of people, right? And they really pride themselves on winning, but winning really, really isn't everything. See, back then when I won Worlds, that was just me I had just had a goal and I was trying to be super ambitious about it and it panned out, right? But it easily could have been just me bombing out Worlds. But just the fact I even got there was awesome, right? I think people need to start cherishing what they do. Like if they come second out of cities and that's their prized accomplishment, that's amazing because you got there and you worked hard for it, right? You like there's for example, there's some people who I know that don't even test. They just show up to a tournament and they're just naturally that good, right? And that's great. But if you show up to a tournament and you like come top 4 and you didn't even put in any work in, like that's great, you're amazing. But I personally cherish the person who came top 8 and put all their work in, right? Just to receive that, and then something happens and they lose, right? To get back to it, I test with my group of friends. We don't test a lot in person. We do a lot of testing online. Coaching helps a lot. I coach all my students and I get to play, and it follows the principles of showing them not what to do, reinforces your own mind what to do. So, for example, sometimes what they'll do is they'll promote something that has a retreat cost, right? And they have a free retreater on the bench, and I'll kind of tell them, right, like a gentle nod, like, oh, you should have sent up the free retreater, right? It gives you more versatility. I'll cap off my answer to this question with this. In my marketing class, we kind of talk about how much information you retain, okay? Someone tells you something, you're most likely to retain a certain amount of it. But if you teach something to someone, you retain 80%, which was the highest amount retainable. And I thought that was genius, right? So honestly, my best advice is teach someone else how to play. It is the best. And you'll never forget it. Like when you're in a tournament, you'll think about like that person that you teach, especially effective with someone younger than you. You'll be like, I taught this little kid this move and I'll never screw it up again.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah.
Longest answer ever, guys. I feel like I went on a run on there. But
hey, no, that's totally okay. That's what the Roundtable is all about. We've talked about a lot of stuff today. We talked a lot about Expanded. We talked a lot about Standard. We talked about upcoming tournaments that have happened. We talked all about the upcoming PokeAcademy. So I think, unless Danny or Jay, you have some last words, I'm going to go ahead and sign us off, and we will end episode number 2 of the Roundtable.
Awesome.
I'm pretty much like I've said all my insight. I've went on so much today. I just want to say thanks to you guys. This is excellent. Dead Draw Gaming rocks. I think it's really cool what you guys are doing, and I'm honored to be a guest on the second pod. Well, not pod. Is this a podcast?
Probably both. Could be both. Yeah.
Why not? We're working on it, right?
Yeah.
But I was gonna say video, podcast, etc. Like this interview is excellent. So
Podcast.
Thank you so much for the opportunities.
Yeah, Jay, thank you so much for being on. So, Jay talked all sorts about the PokeAcademy today. You will find all the links and every sort of information you can need for the PokeAcademy in the description below. He also mentioned Rahul Reddy and running the Chaos Gym and how well he did. You'll also find their YouTube channel in the description below at the Chaos Gym. Other than that, you will find Dead Draw on like 18 different places on the internet. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on YouTube, we are on Twitch, we are on Reddit, we are on SoundCloud, we are on Patreon, we are on iTunes, we are on Google Play. That's 10. So I'm 8 short. We'll find them somewhere. All of our links, all of our amazing things, they will be found below. Make sure, as always, to go ahead, share this video with your friends, hit the like button down below, give us a sub, go find Jay at the PokeAcademy, get caught up. Everyone in the whole world someday will win a world, all thanks to Jay. You attend the PokeAcademy, you will win worlds. So with all of that, for Danny, myself, and thank you again to our special guest, Jay Lesage, we are signing off.
Hey.
So we all got kicked, it wasn't just me? Sweet. Danny.
Maybe he's getting a snack.
Like you?
Man, I love food.
So you live in Canada, why would you be, you have poutine everywhere, why are you excited for the one in London?
I want to eat it. It looks great. It kind of sucks though, because like, boys, I went vegetarian in San Francisco. Like, it was a big misplay. Basically, what happened was like, I'm in San Francisco. This is like the outtakes of the interview. Okay, so I'm in San Francisco, and I go to Chinatown, and man, I just walked into this one place, and this old Chinese man's literally like sawing up a duck. Like, he's just cutting this duck up, and I'm like, holy! Like, I'm not getting recorded right now, right? Yeah, man, it's all Danny's fault. Not gonna lie, I thought his last name was like pronounced ostrich. Like,
everyone thinks that. Like 2 weeks ago, I was over in his house. He lives like 60 miles away from me, whatever that is in kilometers. And for the first time after a year and a half, I said his last name, and he's like, "That's not how you say my name." What the hell do you mean that's not how you say your name?
It's so good.
Yeah, it's a year and a half it took me to figure out how to say his last name.
Man, it took me about 3 minutes in this Skype call. I'm literally just like gonna all bring on the ostrich memes.
Like, you know how some videos they have like the end of the video instead of playing music. What they'll do is they'll have like what we're doing right now. They'll have like a little blooper thing at the end of the video after the outro music is played. Yeah, that's what we need to do, and we need to have ostrich memes on it.